Shaking hands dropped them on the table. They caught the side of the royal wedding milk jug, causing one of the little pads that rest on the nose to snap off. He put them on anyway. Write it down. That is what his wife had always said. If you need to remember an important conversation, write it down as soon as possible. Makes it easier to complain later, she would say, though she had long become used to the fact that it was not in his nature to complain, and he knew it was certainly not in his interest to draw attention to himself. He knew now that he couldn't possibly risk writing down what the man had said. Good morning, Mr. Hartman. Will you kill yourself today, Mr. Hartman? He was sure that was what the caller had said, and then said again, Will you kill yourself today, Mr. Hartman? He repeated their words to himself, trying hard to memorize them because, despite how profound they were, he feared he would soon forget them. This was his life. Important things he needed to remember would all too easily be forgotten, while memories whose sole purpose was to haunt him sat on his shoulder, a constant whispering reminder in his ear. He was damned. He was in his 50th year, though he knew he looked considerably older. He certainly felt older. He'd lived on his own since his wife died 7 years previously, and had no one to confide in, no job to go to since his redundancy 2 years ago. For days on end, sometimes even weeks, he had no real conversations, and that suited him. It was safer that way. Recently, though, he had begun to worry about the effect this isolation was having on him. Maybe this is a trick of the mind. The thought failed to reassure him. Ringing the police was, of course, not an option. So he sat and deliberated, even though no clear ideas came into his head. I thought I had got away with it. The noisy kitchen clock showed that it was nearly 10:15. His routine was completely disrupted, but he was unable to move. His tea was stone cold, with an unpleasant film now gathered on its surface. The toast remained untouched in its chipped china rack, and the cereal remained in the box, still guarded by the tiger. Although he couldn't remember doing so, he had smoked 4 cigarettes, and a 5th was alight in his trembling hand. He normally wouldn't touch his first until he sat down for his coffee after his morning walk. Even when he was getting through a packet a day, he wouldn't have smoked 5 before 10 o'clock. He had once read in the Daily Mail how all the words and sounds ever made in the world did not disappear, but remained suspended silently in the atmosphere. The words spoken on the phone had certainly remained in the room, clinging to the cornices and staring down at him like medieval gargoyles. They were there when he closed his eyes tight, and even when he covered his ears. He turned the radio back on, but rather than the music drowning out the words, it only made them louder. Will you kill yourself today? There was no doubt that was what the voice had said, twice. If that had been all the caller had said, well, he could just about have coped with that, even tried to dismiss it as a prank. But Mr. Hartman. No one had called him Mr. Hartman for over 30 years. He walked into the front room as if in a trance. The room was reserved for special occasions, though there had been precious few of those. He couldn't recall when he'd last sat there, but he came in every evening to draw the curtains just before it got dark, and the ritual was reversed every morning after breakfast. On Thursday mornings, he would dust and vacuum the room, which meant it was the one time of the week when he could not avoid looking at the photos neatly arranged on the sideboard and the mantelpiece. It was the most painful moment of his week, each of them looking accusingly at him, reminding him of sins of which he was already well aware. You don't need to remind me, and you don't even know the half of it. That was his defense. At least